Joining me now to discuss the latest on this presidential race is former Republican Governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty. Governor, thanks so much for being here with us this Sunday afternoon. We're glad to have you.
Good to be with you and your viewers, Jessica.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. You and Governor Tim Walz, obviously on opposite sides of the aisle. But I'm curious, how do you think he's performed on the trail this week and as Harris's pick?
Well, I don't agree with his politics, but I know Tim Walz. I've done a number of events with him over the years. He's likable, he's folksy, he's friendly. But the catch is this: he's extremely progressive. He's the most self-declared most progressive governor in the country. And you combine that with the top of the ticket, Vice President Harris, who is ranked as the most liberal senator in the United States Senate, and you have an extremely progressive, some would say socialist ticket that may be a bridge too far on policy for many Americans, but they don't like Trump, those swing voters, too much either. So there's going to be a real dilemma with those swing voters as to which way they go.
You know, it's interesting. I hear you, and obviously that is the Republicans and Trump are trying to define them as a very liberal ticket. But that New York Times Siena poll of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania came out. Only 44% thought that they're too liberal. So it wasn't a majority. So far, that's not cutting through with the majority of voters.
Yeah, and I think the Trump campaign will have to do a better job highlighting things like their position on open borders, their role in causing inflation, the crime situation, what many people perceive as wokeness run amok, and more. But the Trump campaign is going to have to do a better job at convincing those swing voters that those issues, those policy issues, are enough to repel them away from Harris and Walz and give Trump a second look, a second consideration.
And so many people I'm talking to, people like you, also consultants, also analysts, people who have been elected to office, who are Republicans, are saying they want this to be about the issues, just like what you're saying, that Trump and his campaign need to keep bringing this back to the issues and keep talking to voters about issues that matter to them. And yet this week, we really saw the former president, even in his back and forth, his question and answer with the press, and later at his rally, going off about personal attacks. There was really very little policy, if any, in a lot of what he was saying this week.
Jessica, that's a great point. And I was disappointed that President Trump didn't take advantage after the shooting of that convention speech to give a true and authentic and sincere speech that would thematically go something like this. I learned some things. The country needs healing. I'm still going to be Trump. I'm still going to fight like a dog. I'm still going to say bold things. But I'm going to be better as a candidate and as a leader and show some more civility and some more focus, even within his own campaign. And I think also when he made the VP pick, he could have picked somebody like Nikki Haley as a way to perhaps reach out to those swing voters, soft Republicans, independent voters. But they doubled down. Both sides have doubled down. On the left, they've doubled down on the progressive perspective with that ticket. And President Trump doubled down on his ticket. So now you're going to have a real base turnout kind of race where each side's going to try to max the turnout on their base and try to convince the other side, that is evil and that they should, those swing voters should come the other way because the other side is so bad.
And Senator Vance did a whole round of media interviews talking to a lot of press over the weekend. He talked to our Dana Bash earlier today. I want to play a clip of what he said about his attacks on Vice President Harris. Let's listen to that.
You called out Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg in particular. Kamala Harris has 2 stepchildren. Pete Buttigieg and his husband have adopted twins. Do you recognize them as parents and more broadly as being part of families?
Well, of course I do, Dana. I never, Dana, criticize people for not having kids. I criticize people for being anti-child.
Do you think, Governor, that is an effective pushback, an effective attack on the Democratic ticket? Would you rephrase it, reframe it in a different way?
Well, as you know, when you're explaining, you're losing in politics. So when you have to talk about how, your comments weren't anti-child or anti-parent, it's a losing argument. So as soon as they can get off those topics and get on the offensive on some of the other ones I mentioned earlier in this interview, they'd be well served. But he's dug himself a big hole. That's not an effective way of digging out of it. But, he never should have said that in the first place.
All right, Governor Tim Pawlenty, we really do appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.